Hey, what's up, guys? This is Technical Tim here, and I want to say thank you again to everyone who's been subscribing, and if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it, and if you enjoy the content of this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up as well. So thanks to everyone. All the comments and everything have been great by people. I really enjoy the interaction with you all. So I've been giving kind of the trend I've kind of been doing each card is I've been giving a couple, like one or two free picks, and then I'd also maybe talk about a couple other a couple other fights on the card, which I already did. This card, I talked about how I wouldn't bet Kelvin Gastelum. I'm not necessarily playing Israel, but I wouldn't bet Kelvin at the odds. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing for the first two cards, giving a couple free picks, one or two, and then kind of mentioning some stayaways. So just a few pointers out there and kind of breakdowns for the fights. But I don't want to give them all away because people do pay for my picks, and if you want to buy them, they're on my Bet NNA page. I only charge $8 an event, so if you want them all, you can just do that. But anyway, for this event, my free pick is going to be Eryk Anders. His money line defeating Khalil Rountree. I think this is. I think his line's off currently. You can get him like the -155 to -175 range. I threw on him around those lines, and I think it's crazy value. I would personally line him around. I line him around 80% of the time, honestly, maybe even higher. And you might be looking at me like I'm crazy, but I don't think it's far-fetched to think he should win this. He should be lined about -400 in the fours, in my opinion. So I'll kind of go through right now and give my reasons as to why. First, I'll break them down. Khalil Rountree, he's just kind of a wild kickboxer. He gasses very quickly after just energy exerting sequences. He'll slow down quick, and I mean just a few minutes. He'll kind of keep. He can still fight later in the rounds, like round 2 and 3, and still be functional throwing shots. But his shot selection goes downhill, and yeah, he just isn't as refined as he is in the first couple minutes. He's dangerous early though, and he has no wrestling, like pretty much none. He'll jump for a guillotine, and that's really it. He'll kind of jump for a guillotine. He doesn't really have anything off his back or any wrestling whatsoever. Then Eryk Anders is kind of just like, he's kind of a bit of a freestyle fighter, kind of a wrestle boxer. He likes to pressure you. He is low output. That's the one knock I've had on him in the past. And I bet, even though I got a little lucky, it was a close fight. I bet Theodoro over Anders because Anders tends to be a little low output and Theodoro just peppers output, and that's why I picked him. I ended up squeaking out a little bit because it got dicey in that fight, but that's been my one knock on Anders, but I don't think it's going to matter when he can get his wrestling going in a fight like this. I'm not even as worried about the output, and when someone's tired, he'll really push a pace. So I'm going to go kind of around. I'm going to kind of go through what I think the path to victory is for Rountree and how this fight's going to go. I think Rountree has to KO him early. I mean, I know that's not rocket science or anything, but I just don't think... I can't see him winning rounds later, especially in the third, if... Like if there's any energy exerting sequences, and Anders tends to grapple. Like he will. I know there's been a couple fights he hasn't, but I think he's going to grapple in this matchup. The biggest parallel matchup he probably has is Thiago Santos, and even though Thiago Santos is way better and is pretty good on the ground, the reason I say that is because he was a power puncher, kind of a scary guy, like Khalil Rountree has the reputation to have. So I think, and Anders was clinching up immediately, and the reason why I do not think Rountree's KO threat early is all that great is because, one, in that fight with Santos, Anders rolls with shots pretty well, and he's just like athletic in avoiding them. So he never got hit clean off Santos. He got finished later in the fight because he was exhausted, because he kept getting resisted on the grappling. Because Santos is like tough to hold down, and he'll get right back up. So Anders was forced to strike. He was forced to mat return against a really scary guy and a really powerful man. So yeah, I don't think he's going to get KO'd really early. I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible, but that's one of the only threats we have, and I just do not think it's a big enough threat to have the guy whose biggest path is to do that at plus 140 right now. That's a 40% implied percentage that he wins, and I think that's really one of his main paths. The only other path I could see is if Rountree, or if Anders just inexplicably decides not to wrestle, and Rountree just kind of like wins some rounds by being a little busier. But Rountree or Anders will push a pace. Like he'll cut off the cage and he'll go after you. So I don't see him winning that way either. I don't know. I really think it's kind of early KO or bust here. And then the way I think the fight's going to go is I think Anders will clinch early, and he's not going to get... I don't think he'll get knocked out, and if he doesn't, he's in really good shape. And I think Rountree will start to gas off the initial clinch attempts. Anders will push you up against the cage. He did it to Perez, and he did it to Thiago Santos. And anytime I've seen people clinch up Rountree in the past, he gets tired really quickly. So I think if Anders does that, if he's smart, it will be a very for sure, a very reliable way to avoid the power early, because he'll just kind of drain him. And then Anders wrestling, if he wrestles here persistently, he's going to win, assuming he doesn't get KO'd earlier. And I expect him to. I know there's been 2 fights where he hasn't wrestled all that much. It was against Tim Williams and Theodoro, and a little bit on Machida. But those 3 are all very different fighters. Tim Williams can actually wrestle a little bit, and I think Anders just thought he could knock him out so easily that was his game plan going in, and he just kind of was like, I'm gonna walk this guy down and land a knockout. Machida's historically extremely tough to take down, and Anders did go for a couple takedowns there, but I think he went into that fight not planning to persistently wrestle, because Machida's tough to take down, so why waste the energy doing it? Then the other fight was Theodoro, and Theodoro's a good grappler, so I think he also just thought he could walk him down and wasn't afraid of the power coming back his way, so he didn't do it. Against Santos, he did it persistently, and if he wrestles like that in this fight, he's going to win. And barring a fluke, just a random KO, and I don't mean a fluke because it is a path, but just a low percentage KO, I'll call it that. And he also wrestled really, really heavy versus Perez at times, and Perez is a slick grappler. And I mentioned earlier how Rountree tends to jump for a guillotine, and I don't see him being able to actually sub Anders with a guillotine. One, A, because Rountree's not that good, and B, Anders fought the hands on an anaconda choke and a standing guillotine attempt on Perez, who's a really, really good submission artist. Perez subbed Ian Heinisch, and Ian Heinisch is a pretty good fighter. So he fought hands immediately, so I don't think that will be an issue, and a thing that kind of showed the grappling savviness of Anders. And I never really looked deeply into Anders' wrestling before until this, and I was really impressed. I don't know. I tried to look. I don't know if he wrestled in high school, but he clearly, I would guess he did, but I don't know if he actually did, because I was looking online. I couldn't find anything, but he does tight waist mat returns and things like that I don't see people do if they haven't wrestled before in America. So he might have. I don't know. But a thing he did whenever he fought the guillotine on Perez, and Perez is a legitimate submission threat, is he had a double leg, and Perez jumped for the guillotine. And if you go for a double leg, it's easy for somebody to then use their guard to wrap around you and get more leverage on the choke. And so what he did, and it just showed kind of grappling savviness, he switched to a single leg. When you switch to a single leg, and he put the single leg between his own legs. Why did he do this? Because then he has a single leg and he can fall into half guard, where Perez doesn't have as much leverage on the choke. It's a lot harder to sub someone with a guillotine if you're in their half guard than if you're in their full guard. So it was just a pretty impressive grappling savviness move that I saw Anders do, that I thought was like, it kind of just made me even more confident in him here, because I don't think he'll have to worry about the guillotine from Rountree, which I wouldn't have been worried about anyway, even if I didn't see that sequence of Anders and Perez. But also, like, Anders has good takedowns. I didn't know this either. He has good double legs. He'll switch to a single, like I talked about against Perez. He'll push you up against the cage, work a double from there. He has good mat returns. He'll use like he'll use some like legitimate folk style moves that I didn't even know he had. And I've seen Rountree taken down by way worse takedowns. I'm telling you, Anders will take him down if he goes that path. And Rountree has almost next to nothing as far as a get-up game. He can kind of explode early, but as the fight goes on, he's super flat on his back. And I know Anders' top control didn't look all that great versus Thiago Santos, but it's because Thiago Santos, and he still had Thiago on his back for like long stretches in that fight. And Anders fought well that fight. I kind of forgot. But Santos actually has a get-up game. He'll use post hands. He'll give you his back and split up immediately. It's very important whenever you give your back away, like Santos was doing, to immediately explode up so they don't have the opportunity to put the hooks in. And I've even seen Anders might sub Rountree here. I think there's a chance he does, because Rountree gives up hooks really easily, and Anders, I saw him put him in once against Santos, and I've seen him in other circumstances where I feel like he could do that. But also, I forget his name, the guy who just knocked out Gian Vellante with a body shot, Olmelachu, I'm probably butchering his name, I apologize to the man, I'm not familiar with the pronunciation of his name. He took down Rountree late, and Rountree's just so flat on his back, and he was able to just lay in Rountree's half guard and just kind of do whatever he wanted. And I've seen Anders do the same thing to Perez, and I'm just telling you, he's heavy enough on top and stays chest to chest. He has good mat returns to keep him there once he gets him down, especially when he's tired, and he might finish him on the ground. There's a really good chance. But yeah, I just completely ranted. I'm going to look over my notes and see if there's any other points. Sorry that wasn't a very linear presentation, but I just wanted to throw everything out there. Yeah, and a quick add-on that I want to say is Anders will really push the pace whenever he sees you breaking, and Perez was kind of getting tired, and I could see Anders getting really aggressive, and whenever he kind of sees you're breaking, that's when he'll mix in takedowns and strikes more. So that's another reason why I think he's probably going to wrestle here. I hope he does it right away. I hope he doesn't fuck around on the feet early, but even if he does, Anders is totally fine on the feet and he can pack a punch himself. So I don't think he's like defenseless on the feet early at all. So even if he decides to wrestle in like round 2, he'll still probably win. And even if he drops one of the early rounds, he has a very good chance for A, a finish, and B, a 10-8. Anders Sanchez got multiple 10-8 rounds on Rountree, and I feel like Anders could do the same thing, because if he gets him down on round 3, Anders will drop bombs on you and pressure you and make you work. So that's another reason why I just think Rountree's even more KO or bust. Yeah, I talked about the guillotine jumping for Rountree. Yeah, and pretty much got everything, yeah. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to discuss. So I think Anders is worth your money for this card. And he's like minus 155 to minus 175. You can get him right now. And I would be a little surprised if the line got much better. Like, who knows? But I could easily see this being a case where he jumps up to like minus 220 at some point, Anders. So that's everything. Thank Thank you so much for listening, and please like the video if you can, and yeah, comment below, message me on Twitter, and I appreciate you for listening. Thank you. Bye.